Hello, listeners. Welcome back to the Imposters podcast. Uh, and today I'm not with my husband, but with my dear friend Anna. Hello, Anna.
Hello, hello.
How are you
Oh,
doing today?
I'm doing really well. The weather is really nice today. We're being spoiled a little bit by Malmo and by its weather. So I'm looking at the window right now and there's sunny. Not like it's
Yeah.
winter at all. Not at all. No snow, no icicles, no frost.
Yes. What
It's
is
like
icicles?
icicle is this thing that kills people sometimes in winter.
Okay. In St. Petersburg.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Especially.
exactly. Especially there. Yeah. So nothing to kill you except the strong wind.
Yeah. But actually, today there is no strong wind because I went out and Hilly is famous for its wind, and there was no wind there. I was surprised, and it kind of feels like winter because it's a little bit frozy. You can feel it in your fingers and what is it? Cheeks.
Yeah.
Yes, and yeah, that was a good half an hour of my walk.
I really like the fact that you're living in Hillia because you are the one who knows everything about winds in Malmo. So if it's windy, you're the first one to know. If the wind is strong, you're the first one to know.
Yes, but hopefully soon it will be over and I'll go to the Limham.
So you're gonna be living in a fancy neighborhood.
Yeah, I didn't know that it's fancy.
But people told you, right? It's fancy. Now
like
you know.
Marta said that, and yeah, that's it.
Everyone says that. Everyone says that it's a fancy one with with white, rich Swedes, and you, and now you.
Yeah, but you need to pay a lot for this luxury because I don't know. I think it's not for all of people who lives in Limham, but for us, we will be living in the hundreds years old building, and that's why we have gas, and we are depending on this Russia, Russian-Ukrainian conflict very much directly.
So you're gonna be also a professor in gas prices nowadays.
Yeah.
So I'll be calling you and asking you about what's the situation right now.
Yeah. So today I want us to talk about your life. Yes, you were living in 3 countries, like for a long period, and it's Russia, Estonia, and Sweden. And I want us to compare these countries. Of course, it's very personal comparing, and it's not objective. Is it a word in English also? Yeah. And can you tell about your movements periods, like when you were living in Russia, then in Estonia, and then in Sweden finally?
Yeah, finally. I mean, I don't think it's finally. I think there's probably something else coming, or not. Yeah, but we'll see. It's really funny. While you were talking about these 3 countries, I was like, it sounds like geopolitical biography, geopolitical podcast. But yeah, I've been living in Russia. I was born in Estonia. I think it's good to start with that part. Yeah, I was born in Estonia. And the fact that I was living in Russia was mostly because my dad is from Russia and my mom grew up in Estonia. And I think I talked about it in the other podcast already. Anyways, yeah, I lived in Russia for the most time of my life. So since I was a kiddo, since I was a toddler, up to that moment when I've graduated from my bachelor's in 2020. And then I have made my conscious, I believe to think, I hope it was conscious decision to move to Estonia because I thought it will be better for me. And then I moved to Sweden.
So you were how old were you when you moved to Russia and then from Russia to Estonia?
Honestly, I don't know how old I was. I think, as far as I remember, my mom says that we moved almost immediately, but after I was born. But we were also like going back and forth because I was Estonian citizen until the age of 17. I only had Estonian citizenship. And then before entering the university, I got Russian citizenship. And so I think we moved immediately, but we had like still ties with Estonia. And my mom had some real estate in Estonia, but then she sold it. And then I think the moment she sold it, I was maybe 3-4 years old. We kind of lost the tie and we were mostly living in Russia. And then I went to school. So then we were just occasionally going there to maybe prolong my passport because it expired or something. It wasn't like a long trip usually. Yeah.
Okay. And then you moved to Estonia. How old were you?
I was 21.
21. Okay. Yeah. And in Estonia, how long have you been living there?
So first, it was 2020 when I moved. It was September 2020. And I lived first in one town for like around 10 months, almost a year basically. And then I moved to another town in the south of Estonia. And I lived there also for about a year. And then after that, also in August, at the end of August, September-ish, I moved to Sweden. So 2 years, if to be exact.
Okay. And now here you are in Sweden.
Yeah, but I also have sort of like something resemblance of living in Estonia last year because I was like back and forth with the university. So I was living at 2 countries at the same time. So yeah, and in that sense, it's a little bit hard to count how long have I lived where. So.
Yeah. Okay. So I think it's important to say to our listeners that you have 2 citizenship in Russia and in Estonia. So I don't know, did you have problems in Russia until you were 17 with some bureaucratic things?
I think that question should be addressed to my mom. I don't know if I had any. I don't know if I had any problems. To my mind, I didn't have any problems. I lived nicely. I had the residence permit that we had to prolong. Sometimes I remember, was it like every 5 years or whatever? But no, I don't think I had any problems because when you're not a citizen of Russia, but you have this residence permit, it means only that you're not allowed to vote, and you're not allowed to get any like important jobs in the government or somewhere else. And so, but I was not allowed to vote until the age of 18. So I didn't have the need to vote as well. So I don't think I had any problems with that.
Okay. So you have like, you don't have this immigrant status anywhere, I mean, in Estonia and in Russia, just in Sweden.
Not in a bureaucratical point of view. I still would say that when I moved to Estonia, I didn't speak the language. And the way you feel when you don't speak the language or you don't speak it really well, I think now I do. But before, I felt a little bit like I was still a foreigner, even though I had like guarantees as a citizen. I could have gone to the hospital for free. I could have gotten like any help. I could have done anything I needed in a bureaucratical point of view, but in a linguistical point of view, I felt that my identity still wasn't like fulfilled. So it still was a bit different.
Yeah. And how is it in Estonia? They have a good English, or they just talking Estonian?
Depends where you go. I think so. I was born in Tallinn, and Tallinn is the capital of Estonia. And people, especially young people, they most likely speak English to you. I haven't met really anyone who would be like, oh no, I don't speak English, or can we speak like any other language? Young people. I assume that older people probably don't, but I also think they tend to understand, and they are pretty open-minded to do so. I think in Narva, which is on the border with Russia, people most likely don't speak English, especially older people. Maybe younger do, but I haven't done the survey, so I can only assume. And I think in Tartu, it's on the other border, it's on the south, on the south side of Estonia. I think people most likely speak English there, but they also speak more Estonian than in any other place in Estonia.
Okay, because I think in Europe it's quite rare. Okay, maybe not rare, but I've heard that in France or in Spain or in Italy, there is a lot of people who don't speak English and prefer to speak their language, because in Sweden everybody speaks English very good.
Yeah.
That's why I asked.
Sweden and I think Scandinavian countries are exceptional example of English fluency. But yeah, I've also heard that thing about Spain and Italy and France. And I have been myself to France and to Italy. And I remember myself when I was in Italy. And it was really difficult to communicate with waiters even and it was not some sort of like a rural place in Italy that no one really goes to. It was Milan. It was a really popular destination. And there, people didn't really speak English that well. Maybe I was unlucky.
Okay, thank you for your point of view here, because I thought maybe it was propaganda in my ears.
No, I don't. I think it's truth.
Okay, great. So we can start with the comparing now. And I had help from ChatGPT. And first point is the cost of living. I know that it's kind of hard to compare because we have different currency, but maybe you remember something that when you compared life in Russia and in Estonia, and you just thought, oh my God, it's so cheap, or oh, it's so expensive here.
Yeah, I can only probably start comparing Estonia and Sweden in that sense that I was paying for everything myself when I moved to Estonia, and then when I live in Sweden. Back then in Russia, I was still living with my family, and of course I didn't pay the rent, and of course I didn't pay the like utilities, the electricity or gas or anything. And even though I was making some money back then, I think I didn't really contribute in the household somehow. Maybe I bought some food, but what I've noticed since the war started, everything's gone really, really expensive in all of the countries where I lived. So even in Russia, even in Estonia, and in Sweden. And I would say that The country that has kind of lost in this situation was probably Estonia, because it's the most expensive of all of three right now. So in Sweden, it felt like, oh my God, I'm moving to Sweden. It's going to be really expensive, because it's been sort of a stereotype throughout years that Scandinavian countries are expensive. They pay really high taxes, but they have really good quality of life. But so even if you come there as a tourist, you should pay for this, for that, for that. And then I moved to Sweden, lived for half a year, and then went back to Estonia. And then with a really, really difficult heart, I realized that Estonia has gone really, really bad with inflation. So now when you go grocery in Sweden, you would pay less than you would pay in Estonia.
Okay.
Yeah, just a simple grocery example.
And was it like after war started or after COVID?
After the war, because I think COVID was still mild. I think prices, of course, they went maybe up a little bit, but maybe just the continuation of the COVID consequences, and then the war, and then everything, and gradually it just went really, really down the hill.
Yeah. But you've been in Russia quite recently. Have you noticed changes there?
I did. I went with my mom. We went also grocery. I think it's the best example, honestly. The grocery shopping. Everyone understands. And I remember 4 years ago when we went exactly to the same store. It was Ake, this one. We're going there, and I remember still 4 years ago, when you look at the prices, you could see 2-digit prices. Like you buy vegetables and they have 2-digit prices per kilo. And then this year, when I went there, I saw mostly 3-digit prices. It's also like a very sort of simple example, but 2 digits turned into 3 digits. And it also kind of shows the inflation. And of course, my favorite bakery, the buns that I used to buy there, they were like twice more expensive. And that was devastating.
Yes, and it's not in the St. Petersburg, right? It's nearby.
It's nearby the St. Petersburg, yeah.
Because when we were in Russia, it was a year ago, and we've noticed too. We were in Moscow, and it was coffee example for us. And I remember that when we were living in Moscow, we paid maybe 250 rubles for coffee, and now we were paying like 400 or 500 rubles for the same thing.
So also double the price.
Yeah, kinda.
Yeah.
But in my hometown where I was born, I think time just stopped there, and there I could buy breakfast for 70 rubles. Yes.
Jeez, but is it like a good breakfast, like the
No.
Instagram breakfast?
No, it's not good. It's just coffee and croissant, maybe. Yeah.
No, but it's still nothing.
Yeah.
It's like 70 cents for those who listen who don't understand the rubles. It's 70 cents for coffee and croissant. Hi, Paris. And welcome to Paris.
And how much is it in Paris?
We've just recently been to Paris, and well, I mean, if you're smart and if you take a few stations of metro to a little bit further from the center, it's cheaper. But it was also breakfast. It was you order coffee. It's like a package: coffee, orange juice, and a croissant. And we paid I think €6 for that, and it was cheaper than in the center. In the center, for the same thing, they would charge you 17 or €15, just because
Wow.
it's next to Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come, some tourists in Верхний Уфалей.
for your coffee and croissant.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
but I would still say that probably for for touristic purposes, Russia is still kind of cheap.
Yeah.
Still cheap, especially if you make money in euros or in crowns.
Yeah. Because our currency is going extremely down.
Down, down, down we go.
Okay, so I have a point of work-life balance. Have you worked in Russia?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I have worked in Estonia and I have worked in Sweden.
Mm-hmm.
For God's sake, why have I done that? So, well, work-life balance. I would say firstly, I haven't worked in what is it called? In the government sector. So I haven't worked at a government school or at anything that is subsidized by the government. So I worked mostly in the private sector, both in Estonia and in Russia. And in my opinion, it was the same because even in Estonia, I still worked with some Russian people. So I didn't really feel the big difference. However, I had just like internships at school. And of course, I love Estonian educational system more, and the way that the teachers are taught, and the way the communication and the power distance that almost doesn't exist when you are talking.
What is it? I was going to ask.
It's like in Russia, we would say there's probably bigger power distance. It means that if you have a boss, there is more distance between you and your boss, and the boss would be like more of a authority figure. Whereas in Estonia, you are more equal, or you tend to be more equal. And which is interesting as well, because in Russia we have very strict subordination between people that we call them you with capital Y, and you with the lowercase y. In Estonia, you call everyone with lowercase, even if you work with them. Of course, there are cases that people call you with a capital U. It happens, but it's like really if you don't know each other at all, or if it's a president, then yes. But otherwise, everyone is calling each other you.
But is there different pronouns for this?
Pronoun.
Pronoun, yeah.
You're getting Swedish in your head.
Yes.
For like the capital, why?
Yeah, like in Sweden, ni or and du.
Yes, yeah, there is a different. In Estonian, you would say you with a lowercase, you would say sina, and with a capital, you would say teie.
Okay. So is it okay to call some elderly lady on the street with you with capital Y?
Probably also like some old-fashioned lady, it would be even more appropriate. But everyone I worked with in Estonia, I called you with the lowercase y, because it's just like that. And it's funny as well. At school, children call you with the lowercase u, which my Russian-speaking friend who grew up in Estonia, she found it really, really gross. She would be like, that's weird. I feel weird. But I felt kind of like, yeah, I mean, I feel younger.
And
But
they call you with your name, first name, or how?
they call you teacher, and then they call your first name. So yeah,
Teacher Anna.
Yes, yeah, I think this is what happened to me at school when I worked with Russian kids. They called me teacher Anna, and then I think in Estonian school they also use the word teacher. Yeah, I think they use my first name. I'm just trying to remember right now if it was the second. Or they can also just use the word teacher if they need to call you. So they would be like, teacher, I need help or something.
And what about, again, about work-life balance? I know that in Russia, as a student, I know that Russian teachers, they don't have like work-life balance. They constantly working. And how is it in Estonia?
Like, again, I haven't worked at school on a longer basis to compare, neither in Russia or in Estonia. But I still was in the school system. I would say that this is a worldwide problem with teachers, especially with this occupation. I think teachers, to some extent, are overworked in many countries. The only thing I think is that probably in Estonia it's better, and the occupation is trying to kind of revive itself, and people are talking that, hey, we need to really, really, really be nice to teachers, and we really need to sort of respect them, or to start taking this occupation as equally as occupation of doctors and lawyers and politicians. It should be the same. And one of the reasons, for example, why it's happening, there was a strike last year. Was it called strike in English?
Yeah,
it's called strike in English. Yeah, there was a strike amongst teachers who just didn't come to work at some point because they wanted to give a statement. Yeah,
because they overworked.
Because they're overworked and they are not paid enough for that. So, but I can't even imagine that it's worse in Russia, because in general, when you hear that someone is a teacher, and I've had this myself, people want to pity you a little bit when you tell someone that you're a teacher, and they're like, oh, poor you. And I had that in Russia when I graduated from my bachelor's. I said, I was really happy. I was like, yeah, I graduated. And someone told me, oh, like, good job. Like, I hope you can handle it. Like, it's difficult choice. And I was like, I don't understand what you're talking about. But speaking of work-life balance, I think in Sweden it was the best.
In Sweden?
In Sweden. No, even though I worked in a really difficult environment, I still think it was the best, in a sense that you don't have to excuse yourself if you don't feel like going to work. So you have this option when you're feeling overworked, or you're feeling that you have zero capacity left to continue, you're just taking a sick leave. You just stay home. You just tell people, sorry, I'm not coming today. No one is going to do anything with you. No one is going to punish you for that. You can take 2 days, 3 days. I think there is a maximum amount of days after which you have to explain why. I think it's 14
Wow.
days, but up to 14 days, if you really need to, I think it's possible. And for me, that was a revelation in Sweden. As soon as I felt a little bit like, also at first I felt a little bit guilty maybe and uncomfortable that, sometimes you wake up in the morning and you feel like you're not sick per se. You're not like just lying in bed with a really high fever, but you feel that you cannot do it today. I think everyone knows that feeling. And with that feeling, I felt really guilty to like tell them, oh, I'm not coming today. But in Sweden, it's possible because I think these are just in the core values of society that if you don't want, if you can't, you don't have to. And of course, sorry for interrupting. Of course, you're not paid for that first day, but it also depends on your employer, because I know that at my boyfriend's job, he is compensated for that. But the third day, it is compensated.
But anyways, in Sweden, teachers also overworking.
I think so. That's why I mentioned before that I tend to believe that it's the worldwide problem. It's just because of the nature of this occupation, especially when you work at school, because things have to be planned in advance. Then you have to be present with them, with children, with kids, with whoever you teach. And then you have to grade, assess, plan for the next. So I think it's just the nature. It just takes a lot of time. And I believe there are probably really, really smart teachers who are good at time management, but in general, it's not very easy to, even with a great time management, it's not very easy to find this balance when you're a full-time teacher.
Yeah.
That's why I'm not.
For our listeners, I have another example of teacher. I have a friend from my school. She's working in Chelyabinsk, and she's working as it's a trudovik in Russian. I don't know how to explain it.
Like a craft teacher.
Craft teacher, yes. And she's quite okay with everything. Maybe because she's constantly saying that, oh my God, what a shitty school we had, because now she has, I think, good school, and she's okay with her job, and it seems that she have lagom amount of money. I don't know how to say in English, like enough.
She has enough. Yeah.
So maybe, yeah, of course, everything depends on the situation, and maybe in Chelyabinsk that is going better than somewhere else. I don't know.
I'm sure that there are brilliant schools and there are brilliant colleagues in different places, in the places that you can't even expect them to be in. But in general, I think, yeah, teachers are overworked, but of course there are great examples as well when they're happy.
Okay, so let's go further. Next point is healthcare systems. It's kind of controversial topic, I think, but you have your experience. Can you share something?
Yes. So if to think, I would say that by now, I hope it will change for me, but I think in Sweden, I have faced the most difficultly accessible healthcare system. Maybe it is connected to the fact that I'm not a citizen of Sweden and my language fluency is far from the perfect. So when I talk to people on the phone and trying to find myself time to book some GP, like general practice doctors or whatever, I still probably they don't take me seriously. I can assume. Once I had to be on the phone for so long, and they were like ping-ponging me from one phone to another, from one number to another, which was really weird because when I was in Estonia, it was so easy for me to book a doctor, and I didn't even need to call anywhere. I could have just gone on it was like a country portal, so like a web page. You go there, and there are all doctors in all Estonia, in any field, in any sector that you need, and you just find either private one or the one who is subsidized by the government, that it will be free for you. And then that was it. In Sweden, even though they have some web pages, I would say that they are not user friendly, and I still don't understand how they work and how I need to book a doctor by that day. Up to now, I still go there if I feel some hypochondriacal moods. If I feel like, oh my God, I think I have something, and then I start looking for doctors, it's not very accessible to me. Yeah. So
But
I would say, yeah.
Is it free
In
Sweden?
Yeah. I think mostly yes, but it depends on your case. So if there's something, then you need to pay, but like a little bit. But I know that in Sweden, the dentistry isn't free. So dentistry, you have to pay from your own pocket, and it can be very expensive.
Yep.
Yeah.
And in Estonia, when you book the time, can you book next day or only?
If there is, I mean, I was told by a lot of people that I was lucky, but I was lucky many times. So with those things that I needed, I could have booked them for the next day. I could have booked them for a week after, or with dentistry as well. Some people that I talked to, older than me, maybe they had different cases, maybe they had different problems that I still don't have due to my age, because I'm still younger. They were claiming that they also had to wait for a long time for something. I can't say that for now, at least. I was pretty lucky. If I needed the doctor, if I needed help, I could have also gone to this, in Estonian, it's called EMO, like emergency care. If you really feel something's wrong with you. I think I had, I don't know what it's called. I was itching really like everywhere in my body, and I couldn't understand why. So I just went there, and they helped me. And it's usually free when you have insurance. In Estonia, you have insurance under some conditions. So it's not like in Russia, you're just a citizen. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I think in Russia, you're a citizen, so you have the insurance. And
you have governmental insurance, yes.
Yeah, and you can get medical services for free. In Estonia, it's not enough to be just a citizen, which makes me sad right now, because I no longer have insurance in Estonia, and I have to do things in Sweden, and I can't do really them like that, because I have to wait long time, or to call, or to fight for my right to get medical care. In Estonia, you have to either be employed, and so your employer provides your insurance, or you have to study in the university or at school. So then you can get an insurance in Estonia. As soon as I graduated from my master's, my insurance told me goodbye, and I didn't have it anymore. Yeah.
So
but
can you use private sector?
I can still use private sector, but coming back to the conversation about prices, it's also way more expensive right now. Yeah, but otherwise, when you have the insurance in Estonia, the rule is really easy. You book a doctor, and when you come, you have to pay just €5, and it's like sort of donation towards the system. and otherwise everything is free. Yeah, and I've met really, really great doctors who were really nice and helpful, and yeah. And especially when you need to get like some tests, blood tests, I didn't need to pay anything for that. If the doctor would say, "Oh, I think you need a blood test," and they would just send it to the lab, and then it's ready in a couple of days. And I found it pretty nice. And I trusted the system more than in Russia. I don't know why. It just felt for me like that.
What experience did you have in Russia? Like I know that as children, all of us had an experience, and it's often not a positive one. But then, in like your maybe universal ages, you had something also in Russia.
I can't really remember right now because I still was a teenager, and I think my mom, thanks to my mom, everything was fixed. If I needed something, like I needed some operations for with my knees, and my mom kind of helped me a lot with that because she was calling the hospital, finding the doctors, and everything. And I was lucky because I think the operations that I got, they were pretty good, and they worked well on me. But otherwise, I can't really say much. The only thing that comes to my mind is that when I started visiting gynecologist, and then I was going to gynecologist in Russia, and then comparing with those that are in Estonia, I think in Russia there you can still meet some, I don't know how to say, like not professional, but
not polite.
Not polite. Yeah, the communication is wrong. They're talking to you in a very weird way, like a little bit neurotic, a little bit
judgmental, maybe.
Judgmental. Even if you don't do anything like special, you're just living your life, and they still manage to judge you. In Estonia, I noticed a lot that whatever I tell them, whatever is happening to me, whatever my concern is, I never met anyone judgmental. Everyone, especially Estonian doctors, they were really nice to me. Yeah.
I had a lot of experience in Russia with the doctors, and in my school years, it was, as usual, not great. In my hometown in Chelyabinsk, but then there was a time when I didn't visit a doctor at all. It's like these golden years, university years, then you can just live your life without pain. But actually, I went to reanimation. Is it a correct word for this?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I went.
You can also say intensive care.
Yeah, intensive care. I had a bad pneumonia, and I were maybe a month. No, yeah, maybe a month in the hospital and 2 weeks in the intensive care wing. And that was awful, but the doctors were great there. Not nurse, but doctors were really professional, and I think they saved my life even. So I think our system controversial, but the specialists can be really great. Even in Chelyabinsk, that is not Moscow, but in Moscow, I've used governmental part of healthcare and the private one, and they were equally professional, I think. So in Moscow, of course, it's better, and you can, especially when you have this private insurance, everything like goes very easily, and you even are over checked, I think, because they get money from the company and they are trying to uh,
use it up, or
use it, like do all of tests that they can do. Yeah.
Yeah,
So.
true. Also, I've noticed, and I think I even seen a reel on that concern, that the same doctors that work in the governmental institutions, they also work in private. So the same doctors with the same qualifications. So there was a funny reel, I think it was in Russian, that the lady comes to the doctor in the governmental hospital, and she's like, "Oh, what kind of prescriptions are you giving me? It's really like a weird one. I'm going to a private doctor to ask them a second opinion." And then she comes to a private clinic to the same doctor, and she's like, "Wait, what?"
Yes, but I think in Russia we have this perception that private medicine is much better than governmental one. Is it the same in Estonia?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Like in Russia, I think we have this point of view that governmental medicine not good enough, and the private one is very good.
If it's the same in Estonia, I think the societal trust in Estonia is higher. So I think people tend to think that it's okay to go through the governmental institutions. Maybe if your case is more complicated, maybe then you go to the private one. However, I personally, I'm going to speak for myself. I didn't have that feeling that I was scared to go to governmental. In Russia, sometimes I feel like, no, yeah. So when I had a choice this December to go to a private one, dentist or the governmental, I chose the private over the governmental. I don't know why. Just a gut feeling, sort of. I have no explanation to it. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah. So let's go. Okay, we have education, but I think we've talked about it already through your job. Social security.
What is it?
How the government supports its citizens and comparisons of social safety nets in each country. I don't know if it's interesting or not. I don't think so. Maybe infrastructure and public services, like quality of roads.
Quality of roads.
Public transport.
Public transport. I love
urban development.
I love public transport in Sweden, except the trains sometimes. Otherwise, it works well. Estonia is quite small, so it doesn't really have big problems with transport. I'm saying it with a huge question mark in my head because I know that there is a lot of things happening on the news and they're constantly complaining about some prices and everything. But everyone's complaining about prices right now. I personally didn't have problems commuting in Estonia from one town to another using the train system or the bus system. The trains are new. They are newer than in Russia. I mean, in Russia, we have this Lastichka, I think, the train one. But even now in December, when I was in Russia, I was still using the really old trains from the Soviet Union, or I don't know from what union are they from. But they were old. Yeah, in Sweden, everything is new as well. All the trains are new. All the buses are new. In Russia are not. Some are new, some are really old, really, really living their last moments.
What
Of the
about buses? Like you were living in Gatchina there,
Yeah,
and
it's
how is it in terms of public transport there? Not trains, but buses and
yeah,
marшрутки.
yeah. We had a lot of buses that can bring you from point A to point B. They were also not super new. I think now they're newer. The last time I saw them, but I don't remember that much. I didn't really have any problems. Yes, they are mostly on time, I would say. I don't remember like waiting for them for ages. However, sometimes in Sweden, it's like horrible with trains. You have to wait for them, and they can be really unreliable.
Yeah. I think now in Russia, I just looking to the Chelyabinsk because Moscow. It's not fair to judge all Russia by Moscow, because Moscow there is everything working is great. But in Chelyabinsk, I remember when I was growing up, it was really difficult with the public transport. We were living in the countryside, and we had only one marshrutka. I don't know how to say it in English. Like it's
Yeah.
kind of bus, but it's a private sector, and they just take this a part of business to yourself because government didn't have enough money for buses.
Yeah.
That's why I used this private bus, and it was unreliable, and it was always full of people, and that was awful, especially in winter. Then you have minus 28 outside, and you need to wait for this long.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, but now I know that there is like these buses from Moscow. Um, they are old enough to uh, deliver them to the regions. So now Chelyabinsk has some old Moscow buses.
Or second-hand buses from
Yes, but
Moscow. It's like
they're better
it's
anyways than.
it's like the older brother gives his
Yeah, yeah,
little brother the clothes he doesn't wear anymore. Yeah,
yeah.
very sweet Moscow.
Thank you, Moscow. So, mm, okay, we will not talk about politics if you don't mind.
Yeah, I don't
Uh,
mind. I don't mind. It's a very energy draining thing to do.
yeah, I think we can talk about climate and nature because I
Mm.
think in the place that we were living in, it's kind of the same climate.
You mean in Russia or in Sweden?
In Russia,
Or
in Sweden, and in Estonia, I think it's not
the,
really
the, the, the,
different.
there are some differences actually, in
Mm-hmm.
my opinion, because the south of Sweden, where we're living right now, I would say that the climate is way milder, and even looking outside the window right now, and I know what's happening in Russia right now. I've been sent videos from yesterday from my parents. My dad sent me a video how he was cleaning up the snow, a lot of snow. And here I'm looking out the window, there's no snow at all. And the sun is shining. So the 12th of January, it's when we're recording with you the podcast. It feels like, I don't know, if you just look out of the window, it feels like October if you don't go out. But if you go out, it's cold. Yeah. And this is the first sort of flag of winter, that you understand that it's not autumn. But the sun and the how dry it is outside, it's insane to think. Because in Russia or even in Estonia, in the south of Estonia as well, when I was living, I was killing my shoes in that time of the year. I was killing them. Actually, I remember now when I was living in Tartu, at some point it was so bad in winter. I think it was the end of February, the beginning of March. The roads were so gross. They were so cold. They were so icy. And it was like this sort of snow, the dirty snow piles that are mixed with water. And the next morning, the frost comes and then it's frozen, but there are still dirty piles. I was so mad because this 15 minutes I had to walk to my university building, it took me 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
It was so difficult to walk. So I got so mad and I wrote a letter to the municipality of Tartu because I was so mad, and I like asked my friends to sign the letter and we sent it to the government in Tartu, and we got some sort of generic answer in 2 months like, sorry, we didn't have enough tractors, or like we didn't have enough things to clean up when it all melted down. So, and sometimes it can be really bad in Tartu with the weather, and it can be really depressing. And I think it was the same in Gacina. In Sweden, I feel more upbeat. I think
What is it?
like happier with the weather. Of course, it's raining sometimes a lot, but
Yeah.
sometimes there are a lot of days like today. I don't know if you've noticed.
I think you just in this day and you're so happy about the sun that you just forget how it was like 2 weeks of the same sky, very cloudy.
I just idealized everything. But okay, but would you agree with the statement that the climate is milder in general? So there is no such big difference between it's like snowing one day, like really heavily, and then it melts all of a sudden, and then it's really warm. I think the weather is more or less the same when we get into autumn and until the end of winter. It's more or less just raining.
Yes, and that's upsetting for me. I like then it's snow drifts and the sun and minus 25 outside. I like it more than it's overcast, rain, wind, and you just can't go out because it's disgusting outside.
Yeah, I think continuous rain is more disgusting than the snow, than continuous snow. But then you should go to Stockholm.
Yes, I know. I think I'll get used to it eventually. Yeah, because I was talking with my Russian friends recently, and they were asking how is it with the snow and how the government is taking care of snow in Sweden. And at first I said that then in Malmo I've seen a snow, like 1 centimeter or less of snow. I've seen the tractor for this snow, but I remember that in Stockholm we were living there in winter, and it was very icy, slippery outside, and they just let it be that way.
Yeah, no, I also have that example from Stockholm, and I also lived there in winter. And I think at some point people were, not people, but the services who are supposed to take care of the environment around us, they weren't ready for it. And it just one day, it was really snowy, but everyone was so surprised. They were like, what? It's snowing? We didn't know about that. And it feels like it can happen every year. However, even in Skåne, in the south of Sweden, they sometimes can also not be ready for it. Because I also noticed maybe I don't know 2 years ago or something, when it was a little bit snowy, then the buses are all of a sudden late, the trains are cancelled. Just a little bit of snow, and then the trains are cancelled. For me, it's difficult to understand, especially as to someone who lived in Russia, because it doesn't usually happen in Russia. If it's a little bit of snow and then everything is cancelled. No, yes, correct me if I'm wrong.
It was like that in Chelyabinsk. I remember that it's like, oh my God, snow! We don't have any tractors for it suddenly, but it's snowy every winter. How can you not be prepared for it?
I'm questioning it as well. Like it's everywhere, and why is it so?
I don't know. So we have some similarities between Sweden and Russia.
Maybe it's like 1 year there is like one group of people who is dealing with snow, and then they all of a sudden all together they resign, and then there are new people who never dealt with snow before, and they're like, ooh, what are we doing now?
And they're from somewhere from south of this
they're all
planet.
from Spain. They're all from Sochi or all from Spain.
Yeah, but Russia actually has lots of climate zones, because now when I speak to the people here in Sweden, they're like, why are you complaining? Russia is all of like under snow all the time.
I am complaining because I came to Sweden to live my perfect life.
Like lots of people don't understand that Russia is quite big and has different climate zones. And
I think it's a huge stereotype about the one that includes the bear, the balalaika, and the vodka, and oh my God, it's so cold in Russia.
Yeah.
No, it's not. I mean, if you are from Sochi or from somewhere around, you probably have the same weather as in Malmo. In that sense that it's raining in winter.
Have you traveled a lot in Russia?
When I was a child with my family, we went a lot to Sochi, to the south of Russia by car. So we sort of went from the region where the St. Petersburg is by car down the map. So I've seen some towns, but I don't remember a lot of them as well.
So you were super young.
Yeah, and I think we also went to Siberia when I was also young, but it was like Surgut to me, like this part of the world.
Okay, but you don't remember much from it.
No, I only remember standing at this like there's this monument or like statue that marks the border between European part of Russia and Asian part of Russia. That's all I remember. So I sort of been to the Asian part of Russia, but I really don't have any memories of that. So I have to redo it.
Okay, someday, maybe.
Yeah, someday. And what about you? Have you traveled a lot in Russia?
We've traveled with my family to the south also by car, and it was great. It was great time, even though I was quite in the teenage and I was constantly irritated by something. But it was cool experience. But then we traveled to the Kaliningrad with Sasha already. I liked it too. And we were traveling to the Caucasus, to North Ossetia or South Ossetia. I don't remember. Yeah. And I like the mountains there and the, I don't know, colorit of this region. I don't know how to say it. Hues, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. If you want to see different landscapes, it's very very feasible in Russia.
But the tourist like infrastructure for tourists is not good enough, I think, even now.
Yeah, for domestic tourism. However, they're saying that now it's the numbers of people that are traveling domestically are higher for the understandable, explainable reasons. But I don't know. Let's hope it will get better so that we can bring all our friends at some point to show them different landscapes of Russia. I think in Sweden and in Estonia, I've hiked a lot, and I honestly enjoyed it because it was very easy and accessible to go to places and to stay the night in the forest even, because especially in Estonia, there's a really huge hiking trail throughout the whole country, which is 800 kilometers, and they are all taken care of. So every path of this road, every little corner where you can stay and spend the night, they're all really nicely taken care of. So saying that you walk maybe 20, 30 kilometers per day, and then there is a hut where you can leave your things, where you can sleep. There are a lot of logs that you can make fire with, and someone is constantly taking care of it. So the cars are coming, bringing in things. They also ask you to take care of it and to clean everything after yourself. So it was pretty nice, and it's a similar thing I noticed in Sweden with this hiking trails.
Yeah. But is there like really huts, or it's like here in Sweden just like how much free walls and the roof?
There are different things. So there are huts, like with a door, with walls, 4 walls and a door and a floor where you can sleep, like actual ones. And I even remember I saw the one with what is it called? Pitch, там была pitch. So how do you say that in English? Like a
Hearth?
like a like a
Fireplace?
like a fireplace where you can sleep. So you can basically make fire and then sleep on the top of it, like people did long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there are huts that are smaller, so then sort of bungalow style, but with a wooden floor. So you're not gonna get really cold at night.
Okay, cool. I
And
think.
yeah, sorry. And I also think in Sweden the cycling infrastructure is great.
Yeah.
And it's both better than in Estonia and in Russia. Because if you can talk about it. You took the cycling trip.
Yes, and yeah, I've talked about it with you actually on the last episode with you. And yeah, the cycling infrastructure, at least in Skåne, where we are living, is wonderful, and we want to repeat this experience once again this summer. And it's good both in the city and in the countryside, like in the nature. You can cycle, I think, everywhere. And the drivers, they respect you. I think that's really important, and they see you.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And in Estonia, it's not that good.
In Estonia, I mean, I've used some cycling ways sometimes, but I don't think they exist. They're nice. They're taken care of as well, but they're not as huge as in Sweden, and they're not as spread as in Sweden.
Okay, so let's wrap up maybe, because
Yeah,
we are talking.
Let's do
quite
it.
long. Thank you, listeners, who is here still with us. I hope you like this episode with Anna and me. Let's say thanks to Anna. Thanks to Anna.
Thank you very much for having me here for another very interesting conversation. It's sometimes you don't even think about comparing the places you lived in, but it's such a great exercise, honestly.
Yeah, you can reflect
think,
on things.
To look back. And I've honestly realized that comparing different countries you've lived in, it kind of gives you a little bit of peace of mind, because you realize that there are really good things and there are really bad things everywhere. And there are a lot of mistakes people make in every country I've lived, and a lot of great things people do in countries I lived.
Wow, what a beautiful phrase you said. Very poetic.
Yeah, that we can do.
So thank you very much, and see you next time.
See you next time. Cheers.
Bye bye. Imposters Podcast.